This is probably going to be my most important video to date, and it's crucial that you watch it all the way through. Let's cut the bullshit and dive straight in. We literally have had the worst ever liquidation event in crypto history. This is worse than the COVID crash, worse than the FTX collapse. Over $19 billion was liquidated, an absolutely obscene figure. In this video, we will dissect and analyze exactly what happened and why it may have happened. We will look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, as well as the greater macroeconomy, and finally we will objectively discuss what happens now. Should you be worried about the remainder of this year and what previous data and trends have shown us? Remember, whilst I am a financial advisor in real life, none of this is financial advice. I'm not kidding, this has literally been the worst crypto event in history, the blackest of black swans. I couldn't believe what I saw. I was actually out at the time, it's Friday night in London. I'm thinking end of the week, not expecting too much. Markets were seemingly alright. Phone was on do not disturb, so literally no notifications. But after a while I checked and pretty much had a stroke, just seeing blood everywhere. I thought, has someone announced a war or something like that? After seeing that it was Trump announcing a retaliatory 100% tariff on China, my initial reaction was, well, firstly, here he goes again. But after that, really? It makes no sense. We have literally started October with incredible strength, just had the first rate cut, showing the strategy pivot, with another on the way in a few weeks. Q4 is the season for stocks and crypto. How have we collapsed so much off the basis of another Trump tariff threat? And this wasn't a normal crash. Bitcoin went from 120k to 102 in just a few hours. Dropping 15% for an asset valued at 2.5 trillion is just crazy. Hundreds of billions wiped off in an instant. But that's absolutely nothing compared to the chaos and destruction we were seeing in altcoins. Guys, what the fuck is this? It doesn't matter if they were in the top 100 or the bottom 100. Altcoins were dropping 60, 70, 80% so damn fast. This feels like what happened on April 5th with the initial tariff drama, but on steroids. We literally hit all-time highs for Bitcoin a week or so ago, and now look, it doesn't feel natural at all. I mean, come on, check out these charts. Do they look organic to you? I just handpicked random coins, but look at Tau, wick down to 140, Sui went to 55 cents, ADA, fucking Atom on Binance, wicked down to 0, pretty much 0 from $4. What is going on? I do think that these are somewhat fugazi wicks in the sense that you most likely weren't able to buy at these prices, but the principle and reality in itself, I ain't seen anything like this. In the mix of all this, we had even more evidence that this space has become a cesspit of insider trading. Tell me why a hyperliquid account, which was created on the day, opened a short 30 minutes before Trump's announcement and made $192 million in profit. The account opened on the day. Now, it could be an extreme coincidence, but if I were a betting man, I know what I'm going with. And there are more small examples of this that I've seen too. Centralized exchanges have been at the center of a lot of controversy and scrutiny in this fiasco. Exchanges were going down, the apps and websites were freezing, orders were being unexecuted, stop losses were failing, there were artificial or fake price gaps being shown, just pure carnage. Imagine putting a stop loss in place in which its whole job is to literally stop your loss, and it fails. Like, what can you do? The centralization issues, which have been debated for years, really came out and flexed their muscles today. Binance is responsible for the most volume, handling over 50% of trades, but some of the discrepancies were way too sus. At one point, Solana was $180 on Binance, but only $130 on KuCoin. Is this market manipulation? The chart of Atom going to $0 was on Binance too. The longs were liquidated on Binance, but the functions were all disabled, either intentionally or not, to prevent you from doing anything about it. So whilst Trump's tariff announcement was the obvious trigger, that alone did not cause this. It did not cause nearly $20 billion worth of liquidations, almost 20 times more than the COVID crash. There were deeper structural issues at play here which have been exposed. We can prove that Trump's tariff had an effect and may have been the trigger. We can prove that the infrastructure and failures in centralized exchanges magnified the severity. There may not be concrete evidence, but it's heavily implied that there was insider trading, market manipulation too. Then there are theories that market makers themselves were overexposed and collapsed, having their own books emptied. I'm sure more will come out in the coming days, but it's just an absolute shit show and disaster. Which is why I say over and over and over again, please do not trade leverage. In my recent free weekly report, I hammered it home once more. Look, you can't beat the system. I don't care how good you think you are. You may win 10 times in a row, 20 times in a row, cool. But one event like this and you'll lose everything. It really isn't worth it. Quick break to ask, why are you not part of the best free community in crypto? Join over 1,000 people determined to make money and help each other out. Sign up to the email newsletter too. It's all free. You've got no excuse. Link down below. Time for some silver linings now before we discuss what's going to happen and what you should be doing. Bitcoin's strength has actually been pretty commendable. Yes, we wicked down to 102k, but look at the recovery since. A 15% dip turned into 10%, which is absolutely not unheard of in bull markets. We are trading at a price which we were only 12 days ago, and after 19 billion worth of liquidations, fear and panic spreading to the max, exchanges going down, macro uncertainty, you would think that that would send Bitcoin under 100k, but we are comfortably above, sitting at 112. I think that's very impressive, and it, to me anyway, implies we could be set for a fucking ridiculous leg up in the coming weeks once all this smoke blows over. Of course, we could drop further in the coming days. We need to see how the markets open on Monday if Donald wants to screw us further. But for now, we stay above the 50-week moving average, which has been a consistent support structure for us this entire cycle. Bitcoin dominance naturally increased in these uncertain times, wicking up to 64%. This isn't the end of the world, but just something worth taking note of. Obviously, it has come down to a more healthy number of 60% for now. Ethereum, similar to Bitcoin, has shown good strength. Of course, this is an altcoin, lower market cap than Bitcoin and further along the risk curve, so its fall was steeper. From 4.5 to 3.5k, it wicked down, around a 25% correction. It's now sat at 3.8, which is, decent. 15% drop, not bad at all. ETH was actually due a larger correction given the ridiculous run up it's had in recent months, and now that we've hit it, it bodes well for another run soon. We're still above trend lines on the higher time frames, and to be honest, if we somehow manage to close this weekly above 4k, that for me will be a very bullish sign, but we gotta wait and see. It shouldn't be a surprise that in these uncertain times, ETH BTC has dropped, still holding the trends, but in all honesty, with everything going on, I wouldn't even be paying too much attention to this indicator. Let's restore some normality to this space before worrying about relative strength. It's all still very volatile right now. But if I were to comment, we have seen worse drops in the past, and this in itself, it actually isn't too bad. I don't want to discuss our boy Donald. We've done enough of that. Yes, he has threatened a 100% tariff. Yes, he has spooked the markets. But also, yes, he most likely will back down or change terms. Just as easily as we got negative news, we could get some positive news come out and we could do a quick U-turn. Remember, we are in policy shifting times. We had the first rate cut in September with a 98% chance of another in a few weeks, then 90% of another one in December. Assuming that they're all 25 bips too, that's 75 base point reduction in interest rates in a few months. What do you think that's going to do for investors? Fiat becomes less attractive. People's loans are more affordable, more money in the economy, more disposable income to be pumped into attractive assets such as stocks and crypto. This macro shift should not be ignored. Global liquidity has been continuing its uptrend throughout 2025. Remember, I have included global M2s as well as various central banks in this data, whilst also offsetting the chart for 75 days. I'm keeping an eye on it though, in case this recent dip shows a pivot to the downside, but for now it's okay. People don't like this indicator, I do. It's a very simple tool. More money and liquidity in economies means more money to potentially pump risk assets. The dollar has shown strength in the last couple weeks despite rate cuts, which is kind of weird. Mixture of the economic shutdown in the US. Also, this tariff drama probably won't help. Basically just political uncertainty. But with the upcoming rate cuts, I expect this to continue its downtrend, boding well for risk assets. And finally, touching on the stock market and the S&P 500, this drop can actually be attributed to Trump's words. How severe it will go, I'm not too sure. We just gotta wait for the markets to open on Monday. Maybe it'll be a healthy pullback like we had back in July before it continues its uptrend. So the main question, what happens now? I have already been mentioning recently that I expected a pullback to fit the thesis. You can see me mention here on Discord a few days ago that when compared to last year, we were moving ahead of schedule. I anticipated a leg up coming from mid to late October onwards, not the very start, which implied to me either we're ahead of schedule or we're due another liquidation event. We clearly had the latter, but no one would have predicted this level of destruction. Think of it as a hard reset. 19 billion wiped off, over 1.6 million traders affected, fear running rampant, essentially a deep cleanse that was much needed. Not everyone can make money, and you're stupid to think that something as easy as putting leverage on some trades would be allowed to fly by those in charge. Remember, they do not want us to win. Let's take a look at a similar event that happened in the previous bull. May 2021, massive liquidation event. Bitcoin falls 50% due to Elon Musk reversing Tesla's Bitcoin acceptance, and there was also a crackdown from China. This resulted in $8.6 billion being wiped off. The market completely deleveraged and entered a consolidation phase. What happened next? The alt season of all alt seasons. At the time, many were sidelined and lost hope, which is what allowed the move to happen. I was in spot back then, so I benefited, and I'm in spot now, and I expect to benefit once again. Today's liquidation is bigger than May 21, bigger than FTX, than COVID, than Luna. This suggests an even more thorough reset and another V-shaped recovery, even as recently as March-April this year. When this happened, I tweeted, "Who has the brains or balls to buy?" I did, and look what happened next. I tweeted the same thing now because to me, the odds are in the favor of a move up. It may not happen in a week or two, we may slide down a little bit further, but November, December, and even potentially onwards, it signals bullish to me. However, we do have to consider the timeline. This is happening on the verge of Q4. What does that mean? Does that mean we go into 2026? Does that mean a less significant alt season? Maybe a shorter but more intense one? Also, what will retail think? They haven't really been here this cycle anyway, but would this scare them off even more? All questions worth asking, and the answers won't really be evident right now. It'll just be speculation. But look, we've got a reset, a massive one. We have a strong macro backdrop, a significant leverage flush out. Ask yourself, what do you think happens? Take a look at your portfolio and what your coins did. Some recovered extremely quickly. Anyone dropped to 34 cents and is already at 50 again. A minor 15% crash, which is very normal. BitTensor as well, a nice reaction. I have no issue holding coins like these in spot because I know where they are headed. But yeah guys, I hope you all enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you did. Basically, don't panic. Think objectively and act accordingly. Join the free newsletter and Discord, the link is down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care.